Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to call to order the January 12th, 2021 meeting of the Edina Park and Rec Commission. And Janet, could you do the roll call, please?
Yep. Commissioner Mort.
Thank you.
Commissioner McCauley. Commissioner McCauley.
Here.
Commissioner Sorum.
Here.
Commissioner Darlene. Commissioner Darlene. No.
Yep, he's here. He's waving.
Okay. Commissioner Doscotch.
Here.
Commissioner Good.
Here.
Commissioner Nelson.
Here.
Commissioner Strother.
Here.
Commissioner Itis.
Here.
Okay.
Item 3, I'd like to ask for a motion and a second for the approval of the agenda for this evening, please.
So moved. So moved.
Second.
Janet, could you do the roll call again, please?
Yep. Commissioner McCauley.
Aye.
Commissioner Darlene. Okay. Commissioner Doscotch.
Aye.
Commissioner Good.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Strother.
Aye.
Commissioner Itis.
Aye. Thank you. Item 4, I'll ask for the motion and a second for the approval of the minutes for the last meeting, please.
So moved.
Second.
Janet, could you do please do the roll call again, please?
Commissioner McCauley.
Aye.
Commissioner Darlene.
Aye.
Commissioner Doscotch.
Aye.
Commissioner Good.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Strother.
Aye.
Commissioner Itis.
Aye. Item 5. Perry, do you want to introduce? Is Luther here?
Absolutely, Chair. I'll introduce. We have 4 reports for you this evening. One, item B, will actually need a motion on. So when we get to that, just remember we will need a motion on item B. But with that, Luther Overholt, the City Forester, is here this evening, as well as Owen Palmer, our Assistant City Forester. Tom, I'm not sure if you wanted to do any further introductions of Luther or Owen, but I'll turn it over to Tom for a forestry update, their introduction.
Yeah, I think Luther was going to start it off with the Owen Palmer.
I can get us started. So I'm Luther Overholt. I'm the city forester, and Owen is my AmeriCorps member. So this past year, I saw opportunity to apply for an AmeriCorps member, and at first, I was like, I'm so busy, I don't have time to do it. Then they sent out another email blast. They extended the deadline, and so I ended up just sitting down and I did apply, and I'm really glad I did now because I have Owen here. He's been helping me. He started in October, and he will, with the grant, he will be with us until about the end of August, helping out in the forestry department. And so it's a new program that AmeriCorps just started this year. This is the first year of it, and it's been really great having him here to help me. Because we lose all of our seasonals the end of October, and so Owen kind of started right when that happened, and he helped me with the presentation. I'll be going over with you guys tonight, and Owen, I'll let you talk a little bit about yourself and where you came from and what you're planning on doing now.
All right, thank you for that introduction, Luther. So my name is Owen. I grew up in the city of Edina, actually, so that was a convenient transition to being the city of Edina's Community Forestry Corps member. I graduated from Edina in 2015. I attended the University of Wisconsin-Madison from 2015 until 2019. And then last year I worked in supply chain at Land Lakes, and then just was kind of looking for a change. So then I saw an ad for this new AmeriCorps program and applied for it and ended up being placed with the city of Edina. So as Luther said, I'm here for just about a year. And after that, I plan on attending law school, probably at the University of Minnesota.
Cool. Thanks, Owen. And so, yeah, tonight I'm here to talk to you guys a little about Emerald Ash Borer here in the city. This past year, I applied for another grant with Hennepin County, and I was able to get all of the ash trees here in the city inventoried. And so now I know where all of the ash trees are in our mowed maintained areas of our parks. And so just give me a second here. I'll share my screen, and I've got a little presentation. All right, can you guys see that?
Yes.
All right. So a little background. Emerald ash borer is an invasive beetle that feeds on ash trees. It was first found here in the U.S. in 2002. By 2009, it had arrived here in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And in 2006 was the first time I found a confirmed emerald ash borer population here in the city, or 2016, sorry. And since then, it's now in 36 states, which kind of follows the natural, the native range of ash trees here in the U.S. And so it's about, at its, kind of capacity now. It's spread to all the states that have ash trees. And I've been working on preserving the ash trees here in Edina, ever since I found it back in 2016. The threat of emerald ash borer: all ash trees that come to be infested will die if they are not if they remain untreated. In Michigan, where this first started in the U.S., Detroit was kind of where it began. There is less than 1% of ash trees left there now, so they had no idea. The bug came in, and before they could do any treatments or anything, all of their ash trees had, succumbed to emerald ash borer. And now there's a couple that they're starting to do tests on to try and figure out, why these trees remain, but it was a very small percent. And they think, it's just like the grain of the bark was different, and so the bugs didn't want to lay their eggs on there or something like that. They're still not sure and doing lots of research on it. DNR estimates that there are around 1 billion ash trees here in Minnesota. We have the most out of any state, of which an estimated 50,000 call Edina their home. And that's just kind of a guess based off of the DNR's rapid inventory. So they did a flyover, and they just kind of, estimate how many there would be. And so if left uncontrolled, EAB would have devastating effects on the trees here in the city, because any tree that's not treated will end up dying. With the inventory, Rainbow Tree Care came in, and they inventoried 781 trees in our mowed maintained areas of our parks and open spaces. Of those, 450 are still high quality trees that are being offering parks and open spaces. The rest were considered low quality and should eventually be removed. And so we have the base case and the Edina approach. Base case is just kind of doing nothing and removing trees as needed. And as they succumb to emerald ash borer, the Edina approach assumes the same tree removal and replacement policy for low quality trees, but preserves the high quality ash trees using systemic pesticide, which we're doing now. Amectin benzoate is the name of the chemical. And as you can see in the picture there, that's from Michigan. That's what the street looked like before emerald ash borer, and then the photo on the other side is after. So it literally kind of just works its way down the street, and ended up killing all the trees because they didn't know what was going on, and they were all untreated. And so the plan is to keep the best and replace the rest. Here's a map of our current injections. And so I started injecting trees in 2018 and have been doing so ever since, adding more and more every year. All of the green trees on that map, that was the original map. And so that was the one in 2016 when I first found emerald ash borer here in the city. We went through and had a survey done of all ash trees, public and private, in the right-of-way. Because those trees are the ones that, if left untreated, may become my responsibility because they could fall, into the street or sidewalk or, public infrastructure. And when that was done in 2016, there were 1,549 ash trees in our boulevard areas. The majority of those are private residential trees. And so here's the inventory they did. They went through and inventoried all the ash trees in our mowed open spaces. The condition rating was 0, 1, 2, 3, so it was out of 4. Of those, there's still 212 that are, large diameter ash trees that are out there untreated in our parks. To date, I've treated 238 of those trees, and so those are the kind of, big ones that are around our playgrounds and ball fields, and above picnic tables and park benches. Those are the big obvious ones that I was injecting right away, because I knew that in some parks the ash trees are the only shade we have. And then the low quality trees, there are quite a few, but as you can see with the average DBH there at the end, the size of those is significantly less, and so there are a lot of smaller trees that aren't as desirable, which is good. And then this is just a tree benefit calculator. This is for a 17.5-inch tree, which is the average size of the trees that we have here in the city. And so, besides just shade, there are a lot of other benefits that we do get from these trees, especially when it comes down to maybe, single family home with the savings and electricity and gas and stuff from the shade of the trees that they offer. Because once Dutch elm came through, everyone started planting ash trees, and so now we have all these big old ash trees from the 70s and 80s that are shading lots of people's yards. Because that was the new tree to plant back then, and we didn't really think about diversity or anything like that back then. And then here's the return on investment analysis. And so the base case, just assumes removing all the trees and replacing them as you go, whereas the recommended plan, which we're doing already, is injecting the most valuable trees and then replacing the others as you go. And so the base case will lead to higher removal costs as well as higher devaluing of the city forest. And so we'll end up losing a lot of those, the nice trees we have if we were just to remove them all, which is what some cities are choosing to do. But the recommended plan reduces costs by about 60%. So it's around $8,000 compared to the base case by year 10. And by year 20, it's around $700,000. And so by doing those injections, we will maintain a lot more of the value of our tree canopy. And so compared to the base case, every dollar invested by the recommended plan preserves close to 5 times as much cumulative tree value by year 20. And then, so the other kind of big difference here in Edina compared to other cities is that Other cities, they treat all the trees in the right of way and they are the city's responsibility. Here in Edina, those are all residential responsibility. And so I've been, since I found it here, I've been doing lots of different stuff to engage the public, from Arbor Day to, email blasts. But I've been just kind of telling people that if you're not planning on putting the money into the tree and injecting it, you'll want to get it removed sooner than later. I am already finding some trees that are so infested that they have to be removed now, and you can't treat them. And I've been in some of the parks too, removing every other tree. That way we're not stuck with a whole bunch of dead trees at once, and slowly replacing the new trees. Last year, Arbor Day was kind of canceled, but the year before that, it was at Countryside Park, and I planted 9 new trees there. There are currently 9 ash trees there at the park, and so those are kind of the preemptive replacements for the ash trees at that park. Also, this year, for the first time, we had a tree giveaway, and so I'm looking at getting more trees next year to make available to residents to plant on their property. This year, I'd ordered 500 bur oak for a volunteer group to plant at Normandale Park. That was canceled because of COVID, and then we ended up giving away the bur oak trees to residents here, and all 500 of them went pretty fast. And so next year, I've already placed my order, and I'm ordering 1,000 trees to give away to residents. And this time it's a mix. So I got black walnut, sugar maple, pin oak, and white pine. And so that's something that we're trying to do too, just to get give people some options for new trees to plant. And I'm currently looking into some other vendors for some more sizable trees, working with the county and vendors that they've used to try and get some more bigger, significant trees available for our residents in the future for planting on their own private property, and hopefully to be used as replacement trees for their trees that succumb to emerald ash borer. That's about it. I can answer any questions anyone's got.
I have 3 questions.
Yep.
Maybe I'll take other people's questions. What's the advantage to the staggered remove and replace versus the low quality ones versus accelerating that? Is there any advantage potentially to accelerate that? Or
well, so right now too, with all of those, we've actually still been doing the majority of our removals here in house. It's me, Owen's here helping me out now. I have 2 other certified arborists, and we have our log loader and bucket truck. And so far I haven't had to contract out any of these removals, and we've been just going as I find, with the inventory I've got done. I went in all the zeros from that initial inventory in 2016 that I did on city property. Those are all gone now, and so we've slowly been kind of starting with the worst trees and removing them. And so far, we've still been able to do everything in-house with just our guys. And so that's kind of what we've been doing now, hoping, that we can maintain that and still kind of handle all the trees with injecting the good ones and then removing the bad ones ourselves. Does that make sense? I know.
Yep, that's good.
Yeah.
What's a typical injection cost per tree?
And so right now we are paying $4.70 an inch. That's the city price. I know for like residential, it's around like $10 or so an inch. And so since I'm doing, so many trees, I was able to get a lower price than what the regular price is.
Per inch, I don't know per inch what measurement.
Yeah, sorry. On there, everything is in dBH, which is diameter at breast height, and so that's the 4.5 feet up on a tree where you normally measure them for their size.
Okay. And then I had one last. When do you expect to be completed with the treatment of the high quality trees?
And so I'm hoping to inject those 221 other trees next year. Going around, I have been seeing more and more trees that have signs of active infestations. And so I think it's at, right now, I want to get all of those under protection as soon as possible. And so next, as soon as they start leafing out in the spring, you can start doing injections through kind of August. And so hopefully, Rainbow, they hire a ton of people every college kids and stuff every summer. And so they have a bunch of technicians out there doing injections. And so I'm hoping to get the rest of those ones treated next year.
All right, I'm done now. Thanks. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Hey, Luther. This is Greg. Thanks for the good plan on an approach for the ash. 2 questions for you. One, just out of curiosity, the picture that you had before and after in Michigan, that's pretty impactful. Do you have any background on how long the time spread was between the full foliage and then it was gone?
10 years is about the time you go from having, healthy trees to that where they're all dead.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then a more local one. I've noticed recently we had a lot of trees removed along Braemar Boulevard and the golf course. Was that part of this program or was that something different?
So those trees there on that, the north side of Hillary Lane, Braemar Boulevard over there, that's parkland over there, and those were all actually cottonwoods. The majority of those were cottonwoods and other poplars that they got flooded out. Would that be 2 years ago now with all that rain we got? Because that was underwater for about almost 2 months, and so those trees they can sustain being underwater for a couple weeks, maybe a month at a time, but all the roots of all trees do need to breathe and they do need oxygen, and so all those trees basically drowned over there from being underwater with that high water year we had 2 years ago. And so we've just been removing those ones that are close enough that they could fall into the street.
Got it. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Hey, Luther, it's Perry. Did you want to maybe clarify on the injection schedule? What the city's plan would be long term, and if residents decide to inject, what they should expect for ongoing injections?
Yep. And so yeah, with the injections, you've got to do them every 2 years to keep your tree protected. I've started to do ours every 3 years just to kind of stretch the amount of money and the amount of trees we can inject. In that base case, from year 1 to 10, that's when we're going to have the most kind of the biggest amount of infestation. So we're going to keep doing that. But by years 10 through 20, with the way things are going with technology and research going on, they think that we'll probably be injecting the trees once every 5 years. And so, that kind of the amount of times you have to inject, slowly diminishes over time. And currently, Dutch elm came through a long time ago. I think I'm injecting like about 10 trees right now in our parks for Dutch elm. And so it's just the big kind of legacy trees that are left. And there's just low levels of the bugs for Dutch elm in the population, just in the woods right now. And eventually it'll be the same for emerald ash borer. The population will peak, it'll crash, and then there'll just be low levels of the insects left in the wooded areas. And too, for our woods, for those trees, we'll probably leave lots of them because they'll be in areas that are inaccessible or I don't even know about them. And as those die, the new trees there will come back in and fill in the canopy. And then I know there are more trees that aren't on that survey that I'll end up having to take down that, would be along trails or paths, the nature trail at Bredesen and at Roslyn that I'll end up having to remove because they'll be, right next to the path and become hazardous. But
Luther, I have one question. Can residents refuse the treatment, or how let's say they have a problem, a bad tree.
So right now, I got our disease tree ordinance changed last year. So now it does, before Emerald Ash Borer wasn't a part of our disease tree ordinance. It is now, and so Emerald Ash Borer has been added to that. Right now, the only trees that I'm injecting are those on city property. If I find someone's tree that has it, I've only, like I said, I've only found a couple so far that like literally, from the base of the trunk to the top of the tree is all, woodpecker damage. And so that's the first sign, is the woodpeckers going after the insects. And so that, I've only found a couple that are that bad that had to be removed right away. Otherwise, I've sent out some other ones, some other notices, and in there we have that, if you want to get your tree injected, you can do that. They just have to show me proof of the injection. That way I know that the tree is being treated and not going to be, become hazardous in the future. And so that's kind of how I'm handling that right now, because as long as you still have over, the tree companies will say over 50% canopy, you can inject your tree. But when it's at 50%, you have 50% alive, 50% dead. And so I kind of say more like 75% canopy. You can inject the tree and the tree will come back from that. When you do the injections, any of the insects or larvae that are in the tree die. And then for the next 2 years, any of the adults that feed on those trees will die as well. And so that's when they do those injections, the chemical goes into the tree and into the leaves. And when those adult beetles, they only feed on ash trees. When they eat the leaves on those treated trees, they die as well. So it's like poison for them.
Thank you. Any other questions for Luther? Thank you very much for the presentation. Quite informing.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Quite much. Barry, do you want to introduce Tracy? Is Tracy here tonight?
Tracy is here this evening. She will kick off a presentation on our 2021 fees. Before she does that, I'll just echo what Luther always says, and I don't know if he emphasized it enough tonight, but if you are replacing trees on your property and you've gone through Dutch elm and now you're going through emerald ash, the key is the diversity of species. We all love the autumn blaze maple. However, we don't want to be here 15 years from now talking about the autumn blaze maple bug. So as Luther mentioned, there are a variety of different trees to plant, and we really want to stress diversification of the forestry efforts in Edina. So that's my last comment on that. Thank you, Luther. Thank you, Owen.
Thanks, Barry.
And I'll turn it over to Tracy to introduce our 2021 fees.
Thanks, Perry. Good evening, commission members and chair. Tonight, we're asking the commission to review and recommend fees, the 2021 fees to the city council. The process in Edina here is that we review these fees annually, and then we'll have the council adopt them through a formal resolution for the coming year. A little bit about our fee philosophy. Traditionally, our fees are set based on a number of factors. Those can include corresponding market comparison of similar or like offerings at neighboring communities, our fee history, customer satisfaction, operating budget, and our cost recovery expectations. The blend of these philosophies allows us to establish a range that hopefully provides equal opportunity, affordability, and accessibility to users and guests that utilize our facilities and our programs. It also gives us an opportunity to cover costs whenever we are able to. Some factors impacting costs for 2021. The first one is our ability to recruit, maintain, and retain high quality staff for programs and facilities. The services and programs that we provide at these facilities are only as good as the staff that we can maintain. Also with that is maintaining a high level of customer service at each of these facilities. And then navigating cost pressures with some of our trade providers and vendors. We're continuing seeing higher costs with people that we do business with, and it's just a little bit more specialized items that we need done, and it's impacting some of our costs. And then the big one this year was COVID and expenses that we incurred during 2020, and we anticipate that some of the changes that we made will continue into the foreseeable future with those costs. Just to walk you through revenue sources for each of the enterprise facilities. The Aquatic Center, due to the closure that we had in 2020 due to COVID, we are not proposing any increases for ticket, admission, rental, or birthday party packages. And then we anticipate that we may have COVID-19 guidelines that have impact on our overall costs moving forward. And as a part of that, due to the potential that we may have capacity restrictions still in place when we open the season and any operational and safety restrictions, staff is not recommending that we further explore a partial or late season pass, discounted pass for 2021 at the Aquatic Center. In terms of the golf operations, we have a new online booking system that'll create an opportunity for a discounted online booking rate. We're proposing a modest increase for green fees, and this is to encourage that online payment system. We are instituting a new league players card to reward league loyalty. And at the Golf Dome, we are implementing a new players card or proposing a new players card benefit and some minor changes to our guest professional instruction fee. Also at the Dome, we have a new timed golf half-hour rate we're proposing, and that would be implemented for those with a senior players card. Again, at Braemar Golf Operations, we anticipate possibly some impacts with COVID on overall costs for the facility. And the last bullet point addresses a discount. There was a request from a league patron for a discount for league administrators, and at this time, staff is recommending that league administrators could have the opportunity to pass that fee on to their participants, that they're private leagues and they were not organized by the city. So we're recommending that they take that approach since they are not city organized. And again, this was an issue raised by one of our league patrons, so we're trying to address that. At the Braemar Arena and Field, we are recommending that most of the fees hold constant to our 2020 levels. We really saw that the athletic associations struggled this year, and so that kind of prompted us the need to keep charges constant for the coming year across the board, both at the arena and at the sports dome. And then again, with COVID, there may be some overall cost implications to the facility moving forward. Centennial Lakes, we are proposing no fee increases for any amenity admissions or rentals for the coming season. At Edinburgh Park, again, we're recommending no fee increases for admissions, passes, memberships, and our birthday party packages. And then under Parks and Recreation, most of our rental fees for fields, park buildings, and shelters, again, recommending no changes for that for 2021. And again, with the impact on athletic associations, we're not recommending any increase to their per participant user fee for fields, gymnasiums, or the outdoor rinks. We are recommending a fee increase for room rentals at the senior center. We had seen an ongoing demand prior to COVID for some of those spaces for outside rentals. We recently did some facility upgrades to those spaces. So those fees have not been increased for a number of years, and we felt this was appropriate time to do that. And with COVID, with just specific programs and events and ongoing changes and needing to adapt and add programs to meet community needs and opportunities that have come our way, we decided that this year we'll not be asking the commission to review any individual program fees moving forward. So those are not on your sheet this evening. And then again with COVID, there may be just some over costs for programs and services that may again be impacted by COVID. So tonight, again, we're asking that the commission review the proposed fees, and again, they include all the enterprise facilities, and I can stand for any questions that anyone may have.
Hey, Tracy, this is Greg. Thanks for the good overview. Just one question going back to the golf fees. I noticed that across the board, we decided to discontinue the under 25 rate. And I was wondering if you had any insight into why that decision happened to be made.
I just don't know if they were seeing that being utilized, that rate being utilized, and I think they feel like they can, put that into another category. And so I think it was just one that I don't think they saw new. And I don't know, Perry, if you have any insight prior to my time, if there's a reason specific to that I'm not that I'm missing.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy and Commissioner Good. I think the focus has always been on junior golf, and I think we just didn't see that rate being utilized. From what we consider as a junior would exit the junior fee up until the adult fee. So we felt it was appropriate to eliminate it because it just wasn't getting that need, and it wasn't one of our markets that we were trying to push on to recruit more of that under 25 but over a junior group.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Tracy, it's Rick. Could you talk in a little bit about the new system of prepayment? And after you're done, I'll have a comment about that. If you could, please. For the leagues, I mean, for the prepay for the leagues.
Yeah, so for the commissioners that aren't aware, there are golf leagues and kind of groups that have standing tee times at the golf course. And some of the groups, there are some that currently prepay, but most of them don't. Most of them are allowed to book their times, and then they can, call in the day before, the week before, and there's not a prepayment system. So as part of kind of the online booking process, and part of this is trying to get everybody on the same level playing field to make sure that we're treating all of these standing groups and these leagues fairly. And then the second piece of that, in going to kind of a prepayment system, is it allows the golf course staff to maximize utilization. So we have an understanding of, we'll know exactly how many people are going to be on the course on any given day or time. And that's really important right now. They might anticipate that on a given day they're going to see X amount, and somebody calls in last minute, I can't, I'm sick, I have a, and they can't anticipate that. And so we're left with open tee times that we can't fill because they're part of that block. So the staff at Braemar has done a really good job of outlining a prepayment system for 2021. They've met with all of the leagues and all the standing group times to go over this new plan. And so I think it will be beneficial to the golf course. I think it'll, people will, I think, hopefully appreciate, I think the pricing is fair. And I know that, they get a certain amount of weeks, and then they get a number of free rounds, and those are built in. One of the things that just will be different is that they used to get rain checks, and now those are built in as part of their prepayment fee. So a lot of it has changed, and so we anticipate that will be, a little bit of a stumbling block, but I think overall the biggest takeaway is that utilization rate, being able to be at a high utilization rate for the golf course, and that's how we're able to keep our overall golf prices and green fees low, is to have that high utilization rate. So we feel that this prepayment system can do that.
I'll add one additional thing. Tracy did a great job of explaining that. It's also the ability to plan. So when we know how many people are there or are going to be coming for a block, we can staff accordingly. And if we are doing the prepay, it allows a lot more flexibility to put some of our staffing resources, rather than just on a cashiering aspect, to more of the customer service side of things, of supporting the people that are on the golf course, rather than just kind of that massive group showing up and having to pay in the pro shop. If we can pay that early or online, we can plan accordingly. And it's also similar. It may be a change in norm for some at the course, but a lot of the groups are currently prepaying. And I think, as Tracy mentioned, a little bit of equity to how we handle all of our groups, and it does mimic what we do across the department, whether it's softball leagues or other things. There is a prepay aspect to a lot of the things we do, and that helps us just kind of on that planning and management side of things as well.
Yeah, it's Rick. I was going to make just a comment from, it's no secret I play a lot of golf there. And for me, I play in a Thursday league, and I'll be able to play 21 times for $30.90 a round. So for an Edina resident that wants to play at that golf course, I think the prepayment is going to be a real good welcoming device. I think I don't know if I can stand, there's probably about 1,300 league players in total, maybe perhaps more. So it is, I know from, and just talking to Perry and to Joe Abood, that's going to be quite a benefit, I think. And the golf course will still do well financially because the ability to shift some of the costs that we've had before in terms of staffing will be able to go to the fee end of the process instead. So, any other questions for Tracy or Perry?
I just want to make a comment that, we had a lot of changes last year, and I think I give kudos to Perry and Rick and really handling that and explaining it to people and walking everybody through that. But the communication of these changes is important. I don't think these changes are anywhere near what happened last year, so I hope people will not overreact to it. But to communicate clearly with the people using the course is going to be really important. And just, break it down, make it simple, just keep it simple as to what it is. Because we used to have to prepay, I believe, before, didn't we? Before
some leagues do.
Yeah. So even if you made a reservation at the golf course. So it was, I don't anticipate this being a big deal, but I think, Rick, we'll have to ask you to step up again and explain things to the golfers out there. But thanks, Tracy. Nice presentation.
Yeah.
I think just to comment on that, I think what we learned going through 2020 was that the ability to pay online for not just making your tee time, but now you'll be able to purchase a bucket of golf. You can buy your round of golf and a sleeve of balls to accelerate, a more robust point of sale system is something that we learned from 2020 that is going to continue to benefit us in 2021. So that will be a huge change. The new point of sale system will be integrated to the website. You can download an app and pay through there. So it really kind of hits all over. You'll have some flexibility on how you want to reserve and pay at the course. I know that was a large frustration. We had to turn ourselves into a call center. We weren't set up to be a call center. With the varying rates that you see on this sheet, we'll now be able to integrate that online. So that'll be a welcome change from 2020.
So let's put a positive spin on it. So now you can prepay for your bucket of balls and just sell it that way. So it's, it's all about how you present it to people and getting them on board, because a lot of people complained about having the process when they got to the course. So let's sell it like we have corrected that issue.
And it won't expire in 24 hours either. So the other positive.
Right.
Yeah. But I did want to make sure that we did draw out, and Chair Itis and Vice Chair McCauley did get an email from the mayor from a league representative on this issue of giving credit or financial assistance to league administrators. I just wanted to call up that staff is not recommending at this time. So I know when the mayor sent that to you, he kind of said, can you, next time you look at fees, can you discuss this? So I wanted to make sure we pointed that aspect out for you.
We don't do that at any of our enterprises, do we? Compensate soft compensation for any administration or whatever. So
not that I'm aware of. No.
Yeah. Any other questions for Tracy? Again, thank you very much, Tracy, or Perry for the golf. Any other fee questions?
Well, kind of. I don't know if it's a fee question or if it's both or whatever. I'm just curious, last summer we didn't take the dome down, and I assume with COVID, there may be, if there's a possibility potentially that we wouldn't, I don't know if you guys can hear me, there may be a potential that we wouldn't take the dome down again. is there a plan in place with that to not to not charge full price? Because I'm assuming that most people that are in the summertime looking for a soccer field and stuff like that are looking for the open air piece of the dome. And so would there be a break? I'm just curious to know, A, do we have a plan in place to potentially take the dome down this summer? And two, would there be anything specific around the fees for that if instead of an outdoor facility?
So Commissioner Darlene, your mic was very quiet, but I think I may have heard the question as, are we planning on taking the dome down this year? And if not, would we give a credit on fees? It is our intention to take the dome down again. We looked at that as a one-year issue for 2020 due to COVID. But we have every intention to take the back down again at the conclusion of the spring season, whatever that date is, for the summer, and then operate the field as we normally would.
And I can just add to that, we did have a conversation about the dome actually just a couple of days ago, and we have actually a couple of, I think, pretty good options. Normally we use some ICWIC crews to help us take that down, and I think we're looking at that as our first option, but we also have a kind of a plan B and a plan C, so hopefully we can and make sure that it gets down this year.
Again, your mic was pretty soft, so I hope that answers your question.
Chair, if there are no further questions, I'd offer a motion that we accept the 2020 fees as recommended and pass them along to the City Council.
Second.
Janet, can you do the roll call, please, again?
Just to clarify, I'm sure Commissioner Good meant 21.
2021, yes. Thank you, sir.
Sorry.
We're there already.
Okay. Commissioner McCauley.
Aye.
Commissioner Darlene.
Aye.
Commissioner Dostach.
Aye.
Commissioner Good.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Strother.
Aye.
Commissioner Itis.
Aye. Item C, 5C. Jerry, you want to start?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I just want to run through to see if anyone had any additional comments to your 2020 work plan. Obviously, most of that has been firmed up on some of those items. Obviously, many of them you were unable to work on due to some of the information from Cross Commission, and that had changed tactics. Some of the others, some of the funding strategies didn't go through. So, but there is a couple of items that you did complete on several of those. But one in particular we wanted to get some feedback on, and that was from initiative number 4, which I believe is like one of our last Cross Commission work items. So you should all take solace in that. But that was to talk about capital improvement prioritization. And I know the group of Commissioner Nelson, Itis, Dostach, Struthers, and then the 2 student commissioners back in 20 had kind of worked on that criteria. I don't know if Commissioner Nelson, if you want me to keep introducing it, or if you had any comments yet. You just give me the high sign when you want to talk. So
You got it. Let me know when you want me to chime in.
okay, I'll just set it up and then I'll turn it over to you.
Sounds good.
So you had several meetings on that. The initiative work group, which is now bringing it back for the full group for some comments on before we go to the City Council. That group kind of had a summary of items that should be considered when prioritizing CIP improvements. I'll just quickly run down. They were in your packet, but I'll just quickly go. Aspects of safety, ADA accessibility compliance, protecting our assets, enhancing underutilized space for future growth, leveraging partnership funds, cost and expense levels. And then the 2 cross-commission pieces were to get some feedback from the Human Rights and Relations Commission on race and equity goals incorporating, and the Energy and Environment Commission on sustainability pieces. So those feedback that you did get from them is also included in your packet. So we kind of wanted to then talk through that initiative number 4, gather any feedback to try to wrap this piece up. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Chair Nelson.
Yeah, I will chime in and add that, when we made this list, we made it clear that this list is not in any order of priority, the way that he has read it, or in any way at all we prioritized the list or given any sort of weighting in terms of it. I think that's the good, and I think that also will be the challenge, and that's some of the pushback that you'll see in the feedback too, was that it's hard. It's going to be hard to gather all the data points and be able to understand how we've used, if something falls into 2 camps, not the other 2 camps, how do we justify it? But I think at least this gives us a good understanding of what areas we need to look at when we analyze projects that are being proposed, as well as what we need to tell residents who are making suggestions, or groups that are making suggestions of what areas we need to make sure that they are all covered off into. And then that's one thing I just make sure we called that out, because it was mentioned several times. So I don't know if you want to go through and do you guys have a chance to read through it? The ones who are not on our group are ready to read through it. And is there any questions that we should start out with first to understand that? Because I think some of it's good reading material. Some of us have read it so many times it's hard to read it. Lots of feedback, I see. Matt? Nope. No, I'm sorry. Matt Delene. I always like to get some good feedback from there. But he's like, I have no words. I'm on mute all the time. So I think that basically we did is we all went through it. We basically made a prioritization list. We tried to make some definitions, and then we, like Perry mentioned, we sent this off to get feedback from 2 other commissions to give us feedback, which was great and hard at the same time to try to figure out how to put this into a pretty document for the council to say, here's what our prioritization list is. It does give us that we haven't had before is some form of what are we looking at and how do we want to prioritize? If it wasn't a money issue, what are we looking at, and making sure that we're also constantly looking to protect our assets, constantly looking at how are we going to maintain these things, as well as making sure that the race and the equity and the sustainability. I mean, I think that the energy group brought up a lot of really good points that we need to figure out, and part of that's working with Luther and understanding like the tree canopy and other areas. But I think we have a nice list of that we've kind of exhausted and made into certain buckets. So I don't know, Perry, if we need to vote on this or if it's just a get everyone's feedback, which.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if you have to vote, but I would just say if you are, if there's consensus that this kind of these group of pieces should be what's factored into prioritization to move forward. You have to vote, but I think just to weigh that in, I think just to add, additional piece of context, from what you did, the feedback from the EEC was the most detailed of it. However, that's, I think I mentioned this to Commissioner Nelson, was that would be a challenge for staff to put together when we're proposing a CIP project. But a lot of that is really good information or questions when a project is coming up, right? When you think about a new project or a new park asset that's coming in, those are really good questions to ask about the project, not necessarily when we're trying to plan the project, which is really at that high, 30,000 foot level. Some of those questions would be very challenging to answer. However, when it's up for vote or moving forward, those are really good details to have. So it's kind of trying to find that balance between helping prioritize to get things of need with limited funding versus all the details of a full project that's up for debate.
Okay, Corin, This is Greg. I did have one question that maybe you could help clarify, just so I'm understanding the document. Under the prioritization list, the one that jumped out at me was point number 3 that says protecting assets. And then it goes through a sub bullets of existing assets versus new assets, non-revenue facilities, amenities versus revenue facilities and amenities. Is the intent here to be prioritizing the first over the second, or I'm just trying to understand how this is listed, what it's asking people to consider?
No, I think, Greg, I think you bring up a really good question. I think what we have here is that we've taken our exhausted list of a whole page full and try to figure out how we can bucket them into smaller groups. And basically that's how we've said protecting assets. Is it a new asset versus an existing asset? For example, are we creating something that we already have right down the street and not fixing up what's already there versus something that actually is a truly in need? So I think it's really kind of asking, it's not really answering your question, but I think it's, the idea was that it's going to ask the questions of, is it something that we really need, or are we building a Walgreens across the street from an old one just so we could tear the other one down, in terms of how do we protect it? So I think it was really just to understand what we currently have,
Okay.
and making sure we're asking those questions, not so much that it's answering it in here. Does that help?
Okay. Yeah, so it's not attempting to prioritize the former over the latter, but it's asking that is part of the explanation of, is this something that's brand new and we've never had it, or is it a duplicate of an existing asset, as an example?
Correct. And we could probably, if you feel like it's not in here, we could add that to here, some form of explanations of how we're meaning this to be, if you feel like that's necessary, but that's kind of what our intention was here.
Okay. All right. Thanks. That helps.
And I think to take it a little bit further, it's also on staff to kind of, when we're looking at projects, is kind of how does that fit in as well. The one that's interesting for staff is that park by park approach or amenity by amenity.
Yep.
Like when Tom and I are looking at some of the aged amenities in our park system, it's, do you wait for the park to be redone? Or is it, we need new athletic field lighting, so we need to do that as a athletic field lighting project, maybe at 5 parks, rather than wait for a park to be redone and do the athletic field lighting. So it's kind of all those things that are in that is we need to be conscious of as we're bringing a project forward. Is this park by park, or is this amenity by amenity? Is this existing versus new? Is this a non-revenue facility versus an enterprise? So,
okay.
One thing I would like. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Corin.
I was just say the only thing in addition to that is, I think that where this could be helpful is there have been often times in the last few years where we start working on a project and then we find out, oh, the city was also, or the staff was already working on a similar project. So hopefully this can get us to a single point of doing one thing and versus the other part. Instead of doing 2 different things at the same time and not being aware of it. That's all I was going to add. Go ahead, Eileen.
This might be an opportunity. We all know what the issue here. It's funding, right? It's money. This goes nowhere without money. And I think this is an opportunity. I think we need to keep emphasizing that throughout this year, that in order to communicate to the community that this is a lack right now. Our parks need funding. And we have an opportunity here to maybe include that in our communication to the city council, that funding is a dire issue for the city parks right now. And, going forward, we need some solutions, but we also, it helps us communicate that to the community at large. So I don't know if there's a way we can work that in, that we have to have a solution to that. But I think in all of our communication that has anything to do with improving the parks, that needs to be communicated. Because I really don't think people are aware that we have no budget.
I think you bring up a good point. We did mention like the cost and expense levels, but I think you're spot on. This continues to be an issue. And I think that the other part is maybe that's one of the first priorities. So before we continue digging in and spending money to analyze if we should do it, if we don't have a budget, should we start there? Anybody else who was not in our group?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Better? All right, good.
Better.
Good. Evidently, I've worn out my headphones, so that's good to know. The thing for me, I kind of piggyback off what Corin, Greg, Eileen all said. it's good that we're trying to do this work. I think it's important that there's communication to know if there's other parts of other commissions or other parts of the city staff that are working on things like that. I think for me, it's before we go too far down the rabbit hole of this stuff, it'd be really interesting to understand what is 2021 funding going to look like, and are there really actually facilities or amenities that are going to be built that need to be sustainability things need to be applied to it. I think it came up really late in the game when it came to the Arden warming house, if I can think of that example. And, while we knew about that, it would have been nice to have that communication and kind of set that principle those thoughts in motion earlier. So if there is things that we know of in 2021 that are going to be replaced that need to be sustainable, it'd be nice to have that list up in front so that our work is catered maybe to those things that are in the near term, and then use that as maybe a jumping off point to set long-term kind of goals and visions for anything else that would be coming farther down the pike. And I don't know if you have that. I don't know if you know about that. I don't know if City Council has shared that or not. But to me, that would be really something that would be, I think, valuable as you're setting kind of near-term and long-term kind of visions for what we're trying to do for sustainability versus the stuff that we're improving or replacing or building new.
Great points. I think just to quick answer that, the two projects that we do have in 21 would not have a huge sustainability component. They are two existing playground replacements that we'll be having to work on, but they wouldn't have a huge sustainability component. But kind of like when we did the CIP presentation, there's not a lot of park-related projects in 21. I think to echo what you've been talking about, there's not a lot on that horizon. The ones that are within enterprise facilities that might not be general fund paid for by the general fund, but are paid for by the enterprise. Sustainability is a huge component of that because it's the one way that we can try to control operating expenses. We can't increase the number of golf rounds. We can't increase the hours of ice we can sell, but what we can try to do and what we've been trying to do is control that operating expense. So when it looks to any of those improvements, sustainability aspects it's the right thing to do. It's needed to be done, but it also helps us control that OpEx.
Perry, I'm just going to disagree with you on one thing. If we can get Rick to play faster, we could increase golf rounds.
Because he'd just play again a second time. Is that the increase?
Yeah, I could just do twice a day.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's other comments, otherwise, is there kind of a general consensus to move forward with this rationale of a prioritization? I guess. I see some virtual heads nodding, so that's great.
I think so.
Very good.
So that's good. And if there's any additional comments on some of your items, I know Matt and Greg have worked really hard on Initiative 7, which they answered the question a long time ago. Yes, we meet 15%. But that hasn't stopped them. And when we get to the 21 plan, a lot of their work will continue within that. So I don't know if you had any additional comments.
I think just to build off of that, Perry, and a lot of thanks to you and to Tom and others on the staff to help us continue to have a deeper look at how we're servicing our community with amenities, with park, green space. I do feel that as a team, we have one more thrust here to kind of take a look at the work we did in early December and just see if we can get to a finalized draft that we can then bring back to the commission in our February meeting. So I'll certainly commit to getting some time on the calendars for us to take another look at that. And Matt, if you have any inputs from where we left things in early December, would certainly appreciate your insight as well. And let's see if we can wrap this up into a little bit tighter proposal.
Yeah, I don't have anything now. I think we've defined what we expect kind of clear up a little of the gray area in terms of what's park space, and we're trying to look for stuff that's actually usable, or we could see people actually considering parks. There's a lot of boxes that check to kind of make that 15%. It was good to know that we make that threshold without some of these triangular city park amenities that are scattered throughout the city. I think the question then becomes, if that's the answer, is 15% the right number, or are there other options or the other opportunities that we have to maybe even get back green space as we start to look at sustainability and all of these things kind of jumbled up into one. And I know it's really hard because we're a very solidly developed community in terms of real estate and commercial, both commercial and residential, but I don't know if there's other opportunities to look and find green space. I remember back when I first started on the commission, when we looked at the Grandview thing, and there was a park in the middle of the Grandview proposal that was on the docket 4 or 5 years ago. Do we have opportunities like that to create green space? I don't know, but we'll be interested to see where this goes.
Well, I think the other way it could fit in is just reflecting back on the work of Corin's team that we just walked through, is as we look at amenities and park space by quadrants, that type of a reflection could feed back into the prioritization discussion as well, and think about what parts of our community are we lacking amenities? Are we lacking some green space? And try to put some focus on those quadrants rather than just see where something pops up. So maybe it helps define some of those discussions in the prioritization list as well. That's all I've got on that one, Perry.
All right. Thank you, Matt and Greg. And thank you all for your work on all these initiatives. If maybe that's a good time, Chair, we can transition to item D.
Sure.
To look at the 21 plan. I am required to give you a quick presentation that most of you probably already know. So I'm going to do that quick, and then we can kind of talk through that. I'm going to share my screen here quick. You should be seeing a flow chart, a blue and white screen. This is a little bit of how the 21 work plan comes together, how it fits in with everything. Basically, it all starts with Vision Edina. That's about a 20 to 25 year document that is a very high level strategic look at the Edina community and what aspects of the community should be focused upon. That is kind of a guiding document for two things. The capital improvement plan, which you've kind of received an update a couple of meetings ago. You've referenced it tonight about funding levels for those capital projects, as well as the comprehensive guide plan. And it's always interesting to see that the comprehensive guide plan is 10 years. As Commissioner Good knows, as he served on that task force, that is not something you get done in 1 year. Was it about 2.5, 3 years, Commissioner Good, I would say, that you spent working on the comprehensive guide plan. That plan has now been adopted and is in effect for a guiding document for the city. From there, that flows down to a budget work plan that the council reviews that dictates a 2-year operating budget. As some of you may know or may not know, we do a 2-year budget. 2021 is the second half of that 2-year budget for us. And in the off years, we do work on the capital improvement program. So at the mid-year of 21, we will start the 2022 and 2023 operating budget. Those are all kind of at that point where the strategic policy moves into implementation. To continue with that, that's where the Commission's annual work plan shows up. Some of the items on your work plan are reflected in our department work plan. I believe you have 5 initiatives for the commission. Our department work plan has 63. So we have a lot of tasks that we will work on that furthers and clarifies and betters the department work that we do. And then obviously employees have individual work plans. So this is just a little bit about the accountability piece of that. You know, the approval on the budget is by the city council for implementation by the city manager. Your work plan is approved by the city council for your work. Our department work plan is approved by our city manager, and I'm the one accountable that gets to delegate that out. As far as the budget goals, all 4 of those really show up in your 21 work plan. That strong foundation, you've talked about it. Asset and infrastructure is a huge piece of our park system. So I don't need to dwell on that, but also the service piece of that. And that's what a lot of our department really focuses on, is service to that community, to our residents, to our patrons, which might not always be from Edina, to our guests and visitors. So excellent service is a huge piece of that for us, as well as the livable city, connected and sustainable. You talked about sustainability tonight. When I first came on board with the city, one of your initiatives was to review the grand rounds, right? That connected city. Connections aren't always physical. As we've learned in this environment, they can be virtual or technologically as well. So not just connection from a physical, but could be on your neighborhood level. As well as we're all better together, inclusive and engaged community. Again, that does show up in your initiatives about engaging back with the community. The City Council has 3 value statements. The first is on community engagement. The second is on sustainability. But I did want to point out to you that a third value statement that they recently adopted. And I don't have the exact date on that, but it is an equity statement, and that is new for the City Council. And I just want to take the time to make sure you did review that a little bit and reflect on it. And it just says, as the Edina City Council, we are dedicated to creating an environment in our community where residents have equitable opportunities to participate in their city government and access the city's institutions, facilities, and services. So while they've had engagement, sustainability statements, equity is new. A little bit about the plan. I think you've seen this before, how your plan flows out and works. And tonight we are saying the annual 21 work plan begins. So it is live and approved. Just a reminder, come September, we'll be looking at the 22 plan, and that goes through a series of steps for approval. There was a number of feedback across all the commissions for their work plans of recommendations that came through, some from commission members, some from staff. Again, it was the challenges of cross-commission committees. So while we have one legacy item, again, on equity, that should be taken care of because staff is proposing some of that work that will then be just reviewed by commission. So it won't be a cross-commission work. The other one is to make sure they do align with city goals and work plans. So some of the things that you have on yours, staff has on ours to help support. On this one as well is just the clarity of the council staff and commission roles. That's always important when we do look at commission initiatives. And then the council's overall concern about the number of events, both due to COVID restrictions and the amount of work that they would put on a commission. So that is, you may see some of that reflection within the work plan as well. So I'm gonna stop sharing that screen and just wanted to draw your attention to, in the packet, the 5 initiatives that you do have within there. And I've got it actually live on my screen. The one thing I did want to ensure we did tonight is to go through the leads that are on each initiative to make sure I have captured the assignments, so we can, whoever is going to be the lead of that group can move forward. I think we did this once before, but I think through the versions that were sent to council and back, we may not have the correct commissioners on each of those. So I wanted to make sure that was a point of that. Otherwise, your commission work plan still has 5 items. A few of the items were kind of maybe changed a little bit for clarity, a little bit for condensing workloads. One of those was to create a presentation and get out in front of the groups. The council wanted that to be up to 6 groups. Again, I think they're concerned about how many can you get to. The others were just to make sure there was some clarity on the deliverable. Like an initiative 3, they wanted a report to the council. That's the one on the funding sources that we've kind of talked about as a culmination of some of your other work. And then just to make sure some of them were a project and a study and report, and where they would want that. The other unique piece is that as staff, we will update this, the progress on this quarterly. So maybe just some feedback from you. I'd like to keep it on your agenda monthly, so you have it in front of you and as a reminder. However, the council is looking for some progress at the end of each quarter. So we'll try to provide that for them as well. So with that, I didn't have anything else, but just any other discussion on that, but just wanted to make sure we got the right people on the right initiative.
Yeah, Perry. In earlier handouts, I think my name was on number 2 and number 3. This is Rick.
I'm actually typing into the document, so I've got those on 2 and 3. Other than that, if your assignments look adequate, we could move forward. I mentioned this to Chair Itis. If there's ways we can help you facilitate work on the initiatives or a discussion on kickoff, however you wanted to do that, we'd be happy to help. I know some people prefer a virtual environment. We can help support that. If it is you'd like to meet at the golf course, we can use the banquet room if we want to spread out. Again, based on occupancy and the governor's guidelines, we can try to help support any of the work that you wanted to do to move this forward.
Yeah, Perry, can we do a combination, like at the meeting room downstairs at the golf course plus virtual if we wanted to, or?
I'd have to double check on it. Yeah, Chair, I'd have to double check on the technology, but I think we could. If some people preferred virtual, we could definitely try to do a combination. I think the downstairs room has that technology.
Yeah. That'd be a great place to do that if we wanted to. So,
Perry, the only thing I was going to ask is you mentioned earlier that there are 2 parks playgrounds that are on the docket for 2021, but they're not listed here. Is that anything that you would like any commission help with to move those along, or is that something that just staff wants to do?
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. We probably move that forward as business items. But I think using our park assignments, we haven't gone through, and actually that's been on my list to organize internally, is what our engagement plan is going to be on those 2 parks, and working through that to bring an engagement plan forward. But I just haven't had the time to do that yet for 21. But those items would most likely show up as business items in front of the board as a recommendation to the council.
Perry, the only other thing I had, this is Greg. My name looks to be appropriate on the work initiatives. I also had Nick and Jack on from the October meeting saying that they would help out with Initiative 5. I think Jack's on tonight. I don't know if Nick's with us or not, but you might be able to confirm that. But that's what notes I had, is that they were interested in participating in Initiative number 5.
Good catch, duly noted. Other than that, Chair, that's all I had for that item,
Okay.
unless there was other feedback, but just let us know how we can help support you.
Thank you. Item 6, I believe, member and chair comments, please.
Yeah, I've got a couple, Rick. This is Greg. First off, as we kind of kick off 2021, looking back on 2020, just wanted to offer to Perry and the entire staff congrats on managing the impact and changes due to COVID-19 in the past year. I just think about where we started this back in March and beginning virtual and thinking about the impact of the budgets and what's it going to do to our programs and are we going to have a pool open and all these issues that at the time maybe we were thinking this was only going to be 4 to 6 weeks and now we're on month number 10 going into the next calendar year. So just wanted to recognize all the great work on scrambling to keep things going as best we can and really have some very successful aspects of 2020, not just have to live with it, but really succeed in it. So looking forward to recovery in 2021. Let's all be hopeful, but wanted to kind of at least take note of the great work that was done in 2020. Secondly, then kind of building off of what Eileen had brought up as well, I was thinking of a theme, what could be the theme for 2021? And thinking about some of the core reasons why people move to Edina, right? Strong schools, excellent park system, attractive location within the Twin Cities geography. And so how do we continue to do our part to utilize potentially some of our sessions through 2021 to really communicate the strengths of our parks and our programs? And to say, we've got it mentioned to City Council, just what Perry reviewed, the strong foundation that we have, but also the opportunity and the need that we have for strong funding going forward, right? I mean, we've got 44 parks and 8 or 9 enterprise facilities and a real, I think most of us, if we're honest and direct about it, a real true lack of funding to kind of stay up with those and keep them excellent as we'd like them to be. So I think it would be a good opportunity for us to take the good foundation we've got in a strategic plan, a comprehensive plan, some park master plans in place, and really spend some time continuing to promote what we have, but also to talk seriously and directly about what we need in order to think about 5-10 years from now, do we still have the same excellent structure that we have today? So I'd offer that as a theme for us to continue to work on in 2021 and really tie that alternative funding opportunities, more funding made available through the city, however we might be able to do it. It's a critical need for us if we're going to maintain and improve what we've got. So just a couple things to offer up as thoughts as we kick off 2021.
And just to add to that, obviously alternative funding was going to be a big goal for 2020, and the pandemic kind of nipped that right in the bud there. So we're looking at, hopefully with the vaccine program being ratcheted up and distribution getting better, that we can maybe this year have some in-person meetings, because those types of pitches can't, are just limited to what you can do over Zoom. So unfortunately that had to move into this year, but keeping our fingers crossed that we can find some alternative funding. But to Greg's point, I think we need to keep that an issue that to the community, that if we want great parks for our kids, which we all do, and for everybody, we need to step up and fund that. So that's all I have to say on that.
Well, thank you, Greg, and the commission. I'm not sure you said great work or gray hair, but they're both appropriate for 2020. And I think we have a lot of the same concerns heading 21 as well. So, but we will persevere.
Are you able to take a question during our comments as well, Director?
Sure, we can try to answer something.
Yeah. having frequented the dome frequently, the golf dome, can you just tell us how it's doing? And as I said, I've been over there a lot so far.
Yeah, and Tracy might want to add to my comments
Yes.
as well, but it's resumed activity. I'm not all the dates and executive orders are blending together a little bit, but we have resumed activity at the dome, the golf dome. With the most recent executive order, we are now going every bay hitting on the lower level, and on the upper level, we kind of have some staggers yet due to social distancing requirements. So one of the main things was the distance requirements between participants went from 12 feet to 9 feet. Our dividers are 10 feet apart, so we were able to go every other. We still have some pieces upstairs. The latest executive order also allowed the resumption of with restaurants and bars. So what we call Bay 45, we have 44 hitting bays. Bay 45 is our what we call our concession or vending bay, where you can buy beverages for consumption on site. That also has reopened. So I think this is that time of the year where if everything was normal would be the lull before the busy season, but things are picking up and they are steady. I think the aspect of everyone still is required to wear a mask while hitting helps alleviate, I think, some customers' concerns over that. So that is also a piece that's in place. So we'll have to see. I think the momentum is building. I think it's been doing very well. Again, a really good dedicated staff ensuring our protocols are in place, cleaning occurs, and that when our patrons walk in, they do feel safe in that environment. But I think overall, the numbers are looking good, and we hope to kind of build upon that for that aspect of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments by the commissioners? If not, we'll allow the director or assistant director to have comments or informational items.
Yeah, just wanted to draw your attention to the information items in the packet. I think a number of them, we've received a lot of positive feedback. We received a very touching thank you letter from a resident that kind of highlighted a number of the things that staff has done. And it's the park staff, program staff, enterprise staff, everything from the hunt from the Yeti to some of the aspects they did this fall with some of the storytelling walks to the pop-up ice rink that staff has done down at Wooddale Park. So kind of a number of the things that you do see in the informational items are more of an update. But it's really great to hear a lot of positive feedback from commissioners and from the general public on all the great stuff that our staff has been doing. And I did want to address just two things that the city forester, Luther Overholt, maybe glanced over a little bit. There are two projects going on along the road around the golf course. One, he talked about the trees on the north side that died due to flooding. There's also buckthorn management occurring on the south side, on the course side of that road. It's not a roadway expansion. I know Tom's fielded a number of questions. That's purely some buckthorn management along that side. In addition, Luther is doing some buckthorn management at Bredesen Park. So there's some cutting going on that continues at Bredesen Park, and they're actually doing a burn of some of the buckthorn debris on site as well. So those are kind of two things that weren't quite in your informational items this evening and may have gotten glossed over a little bit on the forestry update, but I wanted to draw your attention to those. Otherwise, any questions on the informational items, staff can help answer as well. If there aren't any, a couple of quick council updates are in your packet. We did some lease modifications at the golf course, mainly due to COVID-19. Luther may have mentioned as well, he's been talking about tree inventories. In the fall, Luther received a grant from Hennepin County to increase just public tree inventory, not just ash trees in our park system and public property, but all trees. So we received that grant, and then we selected a vendor as well. And then, as we mentioned, on sustainability, the ice arena needs a new dehumidification unit. So we're in the process of engineering that. And then the big one for January is Tom Swenson was, again, appointed the assistant weed inspector for the city of Edina.
Congratulations, Tom.
It's a little known statutory aspect that in every city, the mayor is the chief weed inspector. And then the mayor delegates that authority down. So Tom has been appointed the assistant weed inspector for 2021. So.
Tom, I see a lot of things rolling downhill.
In reality, I need to give credit to Luther because Luther really implements the weed inspection program. So.
It's just keep on coming, boy.
And then just your upcoming meeting schedule is included in the packet. Based on the current executive emergency orders, we're planning for a February virtual meeting as well. That's all I had for you this evening, Chair.
Okay, item 9. I'll ask for a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved. Second. Whatever.
Janet, could you do the roll call one more time, please?
Yep. Commissioner McFauley,
Aye.
Commissioner Darlene,
Aye.
Commissioner Doscotch,
Aye.
Commissioner Good,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Strother,
Aye.
Commissioner Itis.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Take
Good night.
care. Night.
Thank you all.